Oh, another match point.
Incredible third set here.
They changed their strategy a little bit and they fought their way back in.
There it is. Game, set, and match.
Hello and welcome to the 2024-25 APTA Tour. We're live from the Fox Chapel Racquet Club in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, bringing you the Steel City Classic with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership and our tour presenting sponsors Volley and Corient. Tournament support has been provided by the following local sponsors: PNC, PJ Dick Trumbull Lindy Group, Delaney Automotive Group, Xenon Paddle. I'm Steve Sullivan with John Kilmer, bringing you this women's quarterfinal match between Elizabeth Halbauer and Jill Jackson, number 4 team in the country, number 4 seed here, number 5 team in the country, against Daniela Baez and Mila Saric. John, welcome to the stream.
Steve, good to be back. Another rainy quarterfinal for us to call, and another new team that we get to watch along with the viewers. So without further ado, we will introduce the 4 players. On the near side at the bottom of the screen, we have Daniela Baez in the pink shoes serving, and her partner Mila Saric is the lefty with the blue master paddle. On the far side in pink is Jill Jackson, and with the headband and the Xenon hoodie and Xenon blue paddle is Ellie Halbauer, last year's national finalist. So should be some good matches. And today's umpire, who we will hear throughout the duration of the match, is Ron Borgatti.
Yeah, so they're still finishing up a couple warm-up serves. I mentioned as we were coming on air, court has some dry spots. The heaters are still on. It's a rainy day in Pittsburgh, on and off all day. John, we called a men's match earlier. It was raining pretty steadily through that match. The conditions were tricky. Looks like these might be a little bit better conditions, but rain's different paddle, right? We saw some things that we don't always see week in and week out.
No, and as we're mentioning during the men's quarterfinal, is sometimes wet conditions and raining conditions favor a slightly more aggressive team. There are days that I think the sport should be called paddle, and some days where it should be called platform tennis, because the tennis part is key. Rainy days are those platform tennis days. We're going to see some good ground strokes. We're going to see slightly more aggressive play. And whatever team can do that slightly better in this match is who I think is going to come out of here with the win.
So we mentioned a little bit Halbauer Jackson, number 5 team in the country, one of the top teams in our sport, number 4 seed this week at Steel City, playing against what we believe is a relatively new team with Baez and Saric. But we watched the warm-up before we came on air. It appears to be a very competent team from a racket skills perspective. You see now Baez in the deuce court, Saric in the ad court, a lefty-righty, always a nice combination for paddle to sort of give different looks, different spins. Let's hear Ron Borgatti.
Final round match is best of 3 sets with tie breaks. To my right, from Cincinnati, Ohio, Ellie Halbauer. Her partner from Cincinnati, Ohio, Jill Jackson. To my left, from Greenwich, Connecticut, Daniela Baez. Her partner from Locust Valley, New York, Mila Saric. Halbauer Jackson won the toss and decided to defer.
So some really good camera angles by Joe Homidi here. A really interesting shot of the court. The court's wetter than I thought. So it looks, from this perspective, there's a couple dry spots. It's still a really wet court. So that's going to bring challenges with footing. It's going to bring unique bounces. Spins are going to be accentuated off the screens, off the deck. If this is truly a new team in Baez and Saric, which we believe it is, this may be a new experience for them today. They've obviously made it into the quarterfinals of this tournament. Couple difficult matches, 5-1 in the first round, 4-4 in the second round. So they've gotten some wet paddle under their belt, but Halbauer and Jackson are one of the more experienced teams we have. So this should be very interesting to see how the first couple games go here, John.
It should be. And as we have a little bit more tape on Halbauer Jackson, the way that they kind of play is Jill Jackson is that perennial steady deuce player who is not going to give you anything. And it's going to enable Ellie Halbauer to kind of roam and prowl around the court, look for some aggressive drives, and they will do whatever it takes formation-wise to make sure that Ellie gets some looks. I've called some matches earlier in the year where they will switch from the backcourt maybe 3 or 4 times and able to get the looks that they want. As we're talking about earlier, though, Steve, how often points are going to be long enough in conditions like that to facilitate that? It's going to be a question. So it'll be really interesting to see from the pictures on the live stream. Looks like Baez and Saric have great tennis backgrounds, and looking forward to a good match. It looks like Daniela Baez is serving to start us off, and we are underway on the women's quarterfinals here at the Steel City Classic.
Love 15.
Ellie Halbauer, really, really big ground strokes, right? Great ability to read the ball there off the screen, but she can really rip it. So it may be a little more firepower than these two are used to, but actually a pretty encouraging first point. This will be a very interesting sort of setup, and I think in the first couple games we're going to get a sense of where the skills of these new two players are. That's really nice patience there.
And what's already jumping off the page to me is I think Jill Jackson's driven her forehand with authority now 3 times already in the first 2 points, really making a statement that you do not get to go to that corner for free today. And these are the type of shots that I think are more important than the casual fan realizes, where you just have to really set a tone early in a match to make sure that Ellie Halbauer continues to get looks throughout the duration. So really good job there from Jill Jackson early in this match, setting the tone.
So looking on the APTA's website, it does look like these two played short hills, Saric and Baez, 19th place, first tournament in the system, so to speak. They may be playing league play as well, but clearly a new team. Very encouraging from a racket skills perspective. And whether or not this tactic works today, they're playing some very sort of nice tactical paddle so far.
And it looks like Jill Jackson, Steve, is doing something pretty similar to what we saw Russell Bentheim doing in the men's quarters, really looking to stick those volleys. It's looking a little bit more tennisy than that true quiet paddle hands, and looking to have that ball really skid through the court.
Game, Halbauer Jackson. Halbauer Jackson lead the first set 1-0.
So a little bit longer points than we saw earlier in the men's quarterfinal. Obviously,
Yes.
Jackson and Halbauer, are playing some big points early on, but they're waiting for the shot that they can just sort of move forward. That last one, Ellie Halbauer just sort of waited. Big pace. This is probably a big opponent for these two to play. So it'll be interesting how this match develops, but really nice patience from that first game by Halbauer and Jackson.
It was, and we saw a fair amount of drives that were all at very good decisions, right? They were stepping into the court. They kept those drives at 80% speed and forced Baez Saric to come up with volley after volley after volley.
15 love. 15 all.
This is Ellie Halbauer serving the light pink jacket,
30-15.
or the light blue jacket, sorry.
All.
And we can already see a nice little shot on the side of the screen of the tent covering the fireplace at the Fox Chapel Racquet Club. Crowd is starting to form. This is an event every year that as the night progresses, you're going to see a steady influx of people. I believe last year, 3 or 4 kegs of beer might have been gone through by the end of the evening, which is an atmosphere that the players love playing in, and it really speaks to the paddle city that is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, more paddle to come. Men's semis following later, about 4:30 start. Women's semis, 6:30 start.
They lead the first set 2-0.
And like a lot of these events, Saturday night is really an unbelievable celebration for the members at the club, for local people coming to watch the paddle, and for the players, right? Cookouts. We've seen bands. 3 kegs is a pretty impressive night for a tournament, but yeah, you can see the rain coming down again, sort of dripping off the side of that tent.
And on that serve, Steve, we saw it have a definitive kick off the screen, which I'm interested to see. Will that make Saric go for a little bit more aggressive overheads when she's at the net? Right now, we've seen kind of a hybrid of a push with a little bit of underspin has generally been what she's been doing so far at the net. Right now, these heavy spin serves are working incredibly well. So if I was on their sideline, I would be maybe encouraging them a little bit more on their overheads. Add a little bit more spin because it's working really well right now on the serve.
40-15.
Yeah, in these conditions, you talk a lot, John, about risk reward, when to try to do a little bit more with the ball.
40-30.
Free points are absolutely something you need to take advantage of. And if there's something that's clicking, clearly Saric's serve, she's missed a couple, but the ones she's making are moving quite a bit. I think Jackson and Halbauer are having difficulties getting a paddle on it. So yeah, same mentality when you're at the net, when you're in an offensive position. If you can do something a little bit extra with the ball, you really have to do that in a day like today.
Ooh, I was half expecting Ellie Halbauer there to slide for that one. Really good footing there on the wet court.
Deuce.
Good shot there of how much steam is coming up.
Halbauer.
So you notice she went with a slightly less pace serve, and I think her footing just sort of got mixed up there in that foot fault.
Deuce.
Really nice positioning. Daniela Baez, really sort of steady, simple paddle volley technique. Sometimes the players that are coming from tennis have a little too much exaggeration, both with their footwork and sort of a follow through, but really nice technique there from Baez and her volleys.
Yeah, and Steve, to that point, I think it was discussed maybe in Short Hills, but maybe a different tournament. But it seems to be that because of all the live streaming that the APTA has been doing over the years, it gives these tennis players that are moving over to the sport a lot more footage to watch and emulate their game around. These players like Zabori and Lynn Burris, who play at a very fun, aggressive style of paddle and still play foundational, patient paddle at the same time, right? They have a blueprint of when to take these risks, when to your point, keep those paddles and volleys a little bit more simple. And it seems to really be expediting the learning curve of these new players because they have a blueprint to model their games around.
Game. Baez, Saric. Halbauer, Jackson lead the first set 2-1.
Good point. This match is different than the men's quarterfinals we called earlier. You know, the opportunities that you talk about, John, when you're at the net, when you have a chance to put a little bit something extra on the ball, it seems like in this match, the court's playing a little slicker. The balls are skidding a little more. This will be interesting. To me, this is, first strike tennis, first strike paddle. In this case, like the team that gets the ability to do something different with the ball first, I think is going to have a huge advantage today. Obviously, Jill Jackson here serving in the pink, and Halbauer have a lot of experience to figure out something in a match like this, but this is going to be an interesting match.
Wow, what great hands there. Phenomenal job there from Jill Jackson. Baez had the ability, she was closing early. Jill Jackson with the great hands fought it off. They're up 15-love. And we've become so accustomed to it, Steve, when we're watching the live stream, just how much we take it for granted how often these players come up with volleys that look routine, but when you are courtside or you are playing, they are anything but with the speed and the spin and the velocity that is coming on so many of these drives. And that is what I have just been noticing is really separating teams on both the men's and women's game over these past few years is, yes, we are seeing an uptick in spin, overheads, and fun shots, but it's the quality of volleys just keeps going up and up, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, the ground strokes in this match are pretty big on both sides. To be honest, you're right.
40 low.
What is very different from the recreational club player to the tournament level player is the ability for the volleyer to just withstand unbelievable pace. Volleys are getting better. It's really impressive. This match actually has a lot of big weapons from the backcourt. Baez and Saric, I think, are new to the game. Hopefully they will be long for the game because they're bringing some really big shots early on. And the volleying, the defense is what wins matches. So
First set, 3-1.
it's part of the game. It's not the entire game. So good start, Halbauer and Jackson. I think this is what we expected. Good to see Baez and Saric sort of, taking a deep breath, thinking about anything they can do differently here.
Love 15. all.
Looked like that serve was so fast, no one knew whether it was in or out.
I think Lizzie gave that up. Was that in? Give me some help.
Yeah,
It's really
looking
tough to
the
pick up the
please.
ball. This is when, if you're playing on clay, the mark would have been about 7 or 8 inches long with the skid.
30-15.
And that is, as Stuart Scott would say, just as cool as the other side of the pillow. Ellie Halbauer on both the back sides and side backs has been roping backhands today. Will be interesting to see how many more fast, aggressive overheads make it their way over to her corner with the weaponry that she possesses.
Game, Halbauer Jackson. Halbauer Jackson lead the first set 4-1. We have a ball change.
And while they change their balls, if you are looking to lower your PTI, the secret's out. Early adopters are already leveling up with Volley's AI-powered trainers, and they're leaving the competition behind. Don't get left in the dust. Download Volley now at www.getvolley.com or search Volley Racket in your app store.
All right, new ball. Quick start, Halbauer.
You guys know. Yep.
Yeah, quick start, Halbauer and Jackson. Listen, this is one of the top teams in our sport. They have a finalist at the Bourbon Ball, winners at the Midwesterns a few weeks ago. You know, coming into the Nationals is a likely 5th seed. Yeah, this is one of the top teams in our sport, not just from their skills. You talked a lot about the absolute, crushing ground strokes for Lizzie Halbauer, but of course Jill Jackson as well, doing everything right to sort of, show this new team with all the power and all the racket skills, a little bit of experience, to withstand, a different type of paddle. The rain brings an element like sun, like wind, like other things. Rain's very tricky to the surface for footing and for what it does to the bounce. So sort of what we expected, but very encouraged. I think there's going to be a little bit more fight here coming from Baez and Saric before this match is over.
Yeah, and even though they've lost the last two games have felt a lot more competitive. They have missed a few shots, maybe trying to find their footing on how aggressive they should be with their margins. And if I'm them, that is really what I would double down for the rest of the set about. Obviously, you want to compete and try to get the win in this first set, but you want to go into that second set knowing exactly what it is that you need to do to get that second and third set.
30-all.
A good example before the big swinger by Lizzie Halbauer, both Jill Jackson and Halbauer were sort of accentuating their volley, right? Volley's coming right to them, a little more follow through, a little more cut, really trying to make that opportunity, pay off in a free point.
And it just speaks to how many different nuances you need in any given day to win a paddle match. A lot of times people would ask, well, John, what strategy do I have to deploy to win a match? And I would always respond with everyone's favorite answer to hear, it depends. Because as you're seeing right now, I don't know, Steve, if either you or I would either off the cuff ever recommend, hey, elongate your volleys when you're on the paddle court to create a little bit of underspin, right? Typically, that's not a recommendation that we would make. But on a day like today, that could be the difference between winning and losing. And it just speaks to how many nuanced variables there are in our game, which is what makes it so fun. You're solving a new puzzle every time you're out there.
They lead the first set 5-1.
Absolutely. So a couple loose ground strokes from Baez and Saric. This is Mila Saric here serving with a blue paddle. You mentioned, John, earlier, Jill Jackson sort of playing an 80% ground stroke, very controlled, very deliberate, put into a certain place, but from a risk-reward perspective, not trying to win the point with a ground stroke, maybe trying to open up the court. I think this is, the first 6 games of this match, Baez and Saric have really big power, really good technical racket skills. They've hit some huge ground strokes. Halbauer and Jackson have done well to defend them, but when they're missed, they've really been swinging full, right? They're missing going for a 95, 100% type paced ground stroke. And I think that is something that comes from experience that, combination points, right? Don't try to win on the first one. This is something that will come.
It will, because it's one of those things that academically makes so much sense when we say it, but when they've probably played the vast majority of their matches where every time they hit the ball hard, they win the point. And if I ever had that experience playing platform tennis, I would drive way more than I do now. Unfortunately,
Halbauer Jackson lead 5-2 in the first set.
as we are seeing now, Jackson and Halbauer are able to withstand those drives with their volleys. So all of a sudden, to your point, Steve, it makes more sense. Take a little bit off in the name of keeping that ball in play more often, just because you're now not winning. But that only comes with experience and getting to play in these big-time quarterfinal matches like they are now against the game's very best.
Yep, this is a experience, especially coming from tennis. It is experience. It's playing every type of point 1,000 times, understanding spins, understanding screens, but understanding when and when not to try and win a paddle point, I think is something that just comes from, not only experience with your partner, but experience at this level. I think you're probably right. The level they may have played at getting to this point, this is the top of our sport, right? These tour events. Last week at Short Hills, one of our Grand Prix events. I think they might need one more if they were to qualify for nationals. But yeah, this is something that will come.
It's okay. Yeah. No, you maybe lose one.
Umpire Ron Brigatti keeping things light with the jokes up in the chair.
Game, set, Halbauer, Jackson. They win the first set 6-1.
All right, we'll be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel presented by Joho.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Love 15.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. We're here at the Fox Chapel Racquet Club in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with this women's quarterfinal match. Very interesting. Baez, Saric, a new team. Maybe their first outing last week at Short Hills against, a top 5 team, number 5 in the country, number 4 seeds this week, Lizzie Halbauer and Jill Jackson. So sort of a quick set, mostly based on conditions and a lot based on just skills and experience from Jackson and Halbauer, but really encouraging from the other two.
30-15.
Shades of Graham McNerney on that drop volley. Really a nice shot there.
Great hands, great assist from the net.
30-all.
And for club players looking to emulate that volley and keep going back to that instant replay to see how she did it, she did a really good job there of loosening her grip, and you see that that paddle loses the interaction with the ball. So that paddle went backwards a fair amount post-contact, really absorbed the pace, dropped it right over the net for a winner. Oh my God. What a great drive there from Ellie Halbauer.
Huge.
The second set, 1-0. Halbauer Jackson won the first set 6-2.
I'm always so
Huge,
envious, Steve,
yeah.
of players who have those shots. It's how I really want to play paddle. Unfortunately, I was not a WTA tennis player like Ellie Halbauer. I was just a good country club player. So the lob is my friend, but great drive there from Ellie Halbauer.
Yeah, really big. So interesting. Listen to a little bit of content on Instagram this morning. Flora Hanish was talking about when to switch, how to communicate the switch. Another footfall call there. I think those two, Saric and Baez got a little bit confused of where to put the ball, when to switch. And yeah, Lizzie Halbauer just absolutely ripped a ground stroke and took advantage of it.
And so many times you have to think when you're playing paddle or watching these matches of the second or third level effects of what you're doing. And right now, Halbauer Jackson they are just making every drive that they hit. And over time, that just puts in the back of Baez and Sarge's mind, I have to hit a great overhead just for them to not hit a drive. And that might not manifest in a miss on the first point or the first shot, but as we saw there, the margins keep decreasing because you're feeling this pressure of I keep having to volley if I don't hit a perfect overhead. And as we were talking about earlier, Steve, about why do players, hit at that 80% level drive more than 100%, it's for those moments of just having that constant pressure be on your opposition.
15-30.
Saw the foot fault call in the men's quarters a couple times. We see it again here. It's hard to sort of understand that, right? That push off, the movement to the net. Sometimes these players are using a different pace serve in these conditions versus in dry conditions because the ball and the ability to get the cut on the ball is a little bit different. And it's really interesting that a number of players today are having an issue with probably more foot faults I've seen today than any other day I've called paddle.
Yeah. And it's always one of those things, Steve, as we know, the not so secret is in league matches, no one ever says anything. So we can all probably think of 4 or 5 of our league matches that we've played in where our opponent's obviously foot faulting that we don't say anything. Tournament play is just a slightly different beast.
40-30.
Huge neck, Jill Jackson ripping a swinging forehand right into the corner. There's some great
Halbauer Jackson, they lead the second set 2-0.
There's some great content on Instagram called Foot Fault Fridays where these guys absolutely shame some of the best examples of the worst foot faults we have. And the funny thing they do is they do a little PTI adjustment, right? 20.8 PTI adjusted for the foot fault, 47.6. It's hysterical. But you're right. This is, playing with umpires. The foot fault is probably one of the trickiest things that's really never regulated in casual and/or league play. So these umpires have the bird's eye view. If they see it, they're going to call it. Good lessons for everybody.
Goes out. 15-30.
Jill Jackson almost took a headshot as that ball skidded off the turf.
$30.
And just like Steve, it's an adjustment for the players getting used to these conditions. I almost feel like it's an adjustment for us. The second I have a thought about what's happening in a point, the point ends and we're on to the next one.
These serves, Daniela Baez has a really nice technical, spin on her serve. She's missed a couple, but
Halbauer Jackson, they lead the second set 3-0. Halbauer Jackson won the first set 6-2.
But a couple points ago to your comment, a quick point, but Jill Jackson, unbelievable sort of control, focus on following that ball off the deck into the screen, trying to figure out where it's going to go and putting a paddle on to just get the ball back on the court. So many times, right, in conditions like this, people try to return normally, same big loopy swings. Sometimes it's just about bunting, right? Pushing the ball around the court, getting paddle behind the ball, putting it on and figuring out when you get that opportunity to do something bigger. So
wow. And right there is, if we are watching at home and we're like, okay, well, this match is going quickly. What's the difference? That's a point that Saric, Baez probably win every other time in their life that they have played it off that monster return. And Jill Jackson and Ellie Halbauer have 2 phenomenal volleys. So Saric Baez had to win that point 4 more times in that point than they are used to doing. And that is something, as they continue to play, they are going to get used to. And as Steve and I might have been talking about during the break, this is a team that we are going to continue to watch for the rest of this year and next year. And it's the more at-bats you get, watch out.
15-0.
yeah, they're playing really good sound paddle. Too many errors, which is the natural sort of trap for the tennis player.
15-30.
Too many points they're probably trying to win versus, getting, the third, fourth, fifth opportunity that's a little bit better, right? That patience to develop, the point a little bit more. but they're playing really good points. The weather's probably compounding the challenge that Baez and Saric are having today, but this is like we talked about in the break, this is a team that has the capability to be a top 10 team. Tough Nick there. To be a top 10 team in the next year. If they keep playing, they stay with the sport. Competing is important. The experience is important, but some really big shots. The blitz we saw a couple points ago, the big ground strokes. There's going to be more to come from Baez and Saric.
And what I love, Steve, that we've been seeing these last couple points is Halbauer Jackson won the first set 6-2. They are up in the second set 3-0. And after every point, these last 4 points, they've had a nice little 10, 15-second discussion about what they're seeing and what they want to do. Because in this sport, as we know, the second that you let your foot off the gas even a little bit, things can change in a hurry. And this is just, a top 5 team in the country showing every point why they are there. They are forming a strategy, and they're executing really well today. Nice transition play there from Ellie Halbauer.
Best point of the match, really good point. That transition dig by Ellie Halbauer was pretty impressive, giving the footing. Really good point there.
And I really like at the net what a good job Jill Jackson is doing of getting that center of mass behind every volley. Right? She's not just stabbing with her paddle, she's moving her body right into the way of the ball. And when I used to coach it used to always be, you want to volley in a way, let's just say your paddle became invisible at contact, that ball would hit you right in the zipper of your jacket. And she's doing a really good job of having those small steps on the court, getting that body behind the volleys. Really fundamentally sound job there from Jill Jackson.
Advantage. Baez.
But I do like these plays from Baez, Saric here of blitzing off of the aggressive return. They have phenomenal hands. They have phenomenal foot speed. And it's been one, even though Jackson Halbauer have continued to come up with answers, they're still difficult answers. And that can be in a moment sometimes a little bit frustrating for a team to be throwing your best and having your opponents have answers, but that does not mean that's the time to move away from it, right? Keep asking questions of your opponents, seeing if you can make small iterations to it to come up with a difference. And sometimes a let drive is the difference.
They'll take it. They'll take it. They're still competing. I think, there's a couple things they're still trying to figure out, Baez and Saric. Halbauer's hit some really good rollers right at the other team that's making them sort of put the paddle behind the ball in a really tough situation that in, drier conditions, you definitely let that ball hit the screen. These two are competing. There's a couple loose shots here and there. I think that's a return that you just got to put on the court, make that person hit the first volley. Lots of firepower.
Game Jackson Halbauer, they lead the second set 4-0. That's 7 games if you want to change balls. 7 games. You can just throw it out, or I'll take it.
I'll take one. Yeah.
Good balls.
All right, another new ball. The balls really take a beating in this type of condition. I know a lot of times out there when we're practicing, if it's, a little bit wet on the court, 3-4 games, that ball can be completely balled, and changes the ability to generate spin, to get the paddle behind the ball to do what you want. So yeah, changing the ball is really important in a day like today.
Love 15.
It's about as polite of way of hitting somebody as there possibly is. The ankles is a pretty safe spot.
I think Halbauer knew that ankle was in play about 5 seconds before her opponent did.
Love 30.
And honestly, it's the right place to play that ball. Your partner, your opponent's retreating, right? Their feet are moving. They're running backwards. You're in the right position. Yeah, you want to put that ball in a place where they're tempted to play it, or put a racket on it when they're just not in a position to make a good shot.
$15.40.
Another cool part about the Steel City Classic and Pittsburgh's location within the paddle world is that it's a nice little melting pot for Midwest and East Coast teams to kind of come together and play. Baez and Saric are from the East Coast. Jackson, Halbauer are out in Cincinnati.
5-0. Halbauer Jackson won the first set, 6-2.
And just create some nice new matchups for us and the viewers to watch at home. Speaking of which, Corient is excited to partner with the APTA because whether as advisors to our members or as members themselves, they are already a part of the APTA community. Learn more at www.corient.com, the official wealth sponsor of the APTA.
All right, this is Halbauer serving, set and 5 love. Pretty much one-way traffic. Some really good points, some really encouraging points. I think, I would, feel really good about saying if Baez and Saric stay in this game, they're going to move up the rankings. They're going to develop really quickly. There's a lot of things that I think, John, you and I are seeing today that are just experience learning curve issues, right? They're really nice spot there by Lizzie Halbauer. But these are things that come, right? There is a learning curve, things you have to figure out by experiencing them in paddle. So, yeah, it's a very interesting matchup. New for us to watch this team, but I think we're going to see them a lot more to come.
Yeah, and as you said, some things you can only learn through experience. I used to think that I had a good, aggressive overhead serve to the deuce side, and then I played Johan Durant, and I'm like, okay, time to learn an underhand serve so I don't die. And these are all just things, to your point, right, that you just get by playing tournaments, going deeper into draws, and seeing it on the other side of the court. And if you are just tuning in now, we are on the back part of this match, but I am John Kilmer, along with Steve Sullivan, bringing you action from the women's quarterfinals at the Steel City Classic at the Fox Chapel Racket Club in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. On the near side in the blue is Ellie Halbauer and her partner Jill Jackson in the pink against Daniela Baez, the righty with the white paddle and the pink shoes, and Mila Saric, the lefty with the blue paddle.
40-15.
And hopefully, if you're just tuning in, you're bringing the vibes. That's it's going to elongate this match just a little bit longer. We have 2 match points for Halbauer Jackson for them to punch their ticket into the semifinals. And I've heard rumors that this year is some sort of Heinz-based trophy. You can fact check me on that, Steve. But they're fighting for one of the last titles on the APTA tour before nationals.
Deuce.
Still competing. Good to see that. Yeah, like was seen develop through this match. I think there have been more interesting points in the second set, deeper, longer points. This is good to see. This is a long day of paddle. This is the third match for these guys. There is more paddle to come. The women's semis are tonight around 6:30. That's going to be preceded by the men's semis at 4:30. Broadcast here on the APTA YouTube channel. But yeah, this is a day if you're Baez and Saric, hopefully that you are thinking about, as a stepping stone. Really, really big backhand by Saric.
And if you are a club player asking yourself, what is the best way that we can fight off against
Baez, Saric. Halbauer, Jackson
What-
lead the second set 5-1.
Man, Ron kept the umpire there kept pump faking me. I thought I had an opening. But sometimes if you're a club player, right, and you know that you are going to be playing against two opponents who have great drives, and you want to figure out what overhead you can hit to stop them from driving, sometimes the short answer is there isn't. And that is where you have to be willing to get behind your backhand volley and come up with volleys, which is what Jackson and Halbauer have done a phenomenal job of today.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about some one-way traffic today, but there have been some really big shots, some really impressive demonstrations of how good this team of Halbauer and Jackson are. They will be competitive in nationals, right? I think they're 5th going into the nationals is the way things are tracking right now. So they are going to be competing. Some really big shots that we're probably not talking enough about as we're sort of seeing this new team and thinking about this new team, but really impressive performance as well from Jackson and Halbauer.
Yeah, and as we talked about earlier in the first set too, right? So much of rain paddle is just about survival. Wow, nice dig there from Ellie Halbauer. Shades of a squash dig in that ad corner. And sometimes that can feel even more frustrating than missing. When you hit a shot that you think is a winner and it comes back.
But that is the best of the game, right? Extending points, unbelievable defense. This is what they pride themselves on. It was a hugely impressive dig by Halbauer.
Baez, Saric. Halbauer, Jackson lead the second set 5-2. Halbauer, Jackson won the first set 6-2.
But when you're in that situation, the experience you'll gain and they will gain will tell you, I have to be ready for that ball to come back, right? That's a little bit how I play in a Thursday night league match, then frustrated that these balls come back. At this level, Halbauer and Jackson, you have to expect this ball is going to come back, and they'll figure that out. This is, this is a team that I think is going to be on the rise. And hey, 2 games in a row, a little bit of momentum, a little bit of an opening here. They're gonna keep ripping it, I have a feeling.
And something that I love from Jill Jackson right now is she knows that Ellie Halbauer needs space at the net to operate on these short lobs to hit either the loopy rollers or a cut overhead. She just does a really good job quietly sliding out of the way on overheads that are Ellie's. When it goes to Jill, she's more than happy to take a step back, hit it. But she knows when it's not hers, slides a little bit to the right out of the way. It's something that I think a lot of club players just simply do not do when they are on the deuce side at the net. They love to step across and steal some overheads, which just isn't very productive. But again, I like to think about downstream effects. If I'm playing with someone who steps in front of me to hit overheads, it greatly limits my ability to hit rollers or to hit cutters. I don't have the space needed to operate. And that's just something that all of these top players just do so well automatically, is they know what balls are theirs and, more importantly, which balls aren't. They communicate that early, get out of the way, and enable their team to be in the best position as possible to succeed.
So in case you blinked, Baez and Saric have rattled off 3 games in a row, playing much better paddle, right? They've minimized some errors. They've hit some big shots, withstanding that unbelievable firepower from Halbauer. So, yeah, really encouraging. Every game they can extend this match is not only an opportunity for today, but it's an opportunity to learn. So, really nice to see this competitiveness from these two.
And that's kind of like the little hidden secret about paddle is the better early on you can show that you can dig and withstand aggressive overheads, the less you actually have to do it. Because Ellie Halbauer right now at this point has probably hit 6 or 7 incredibly hard, risky rollers to that ad corner that have come back every single time. And the more that this team of Baez Saric can prove that no matter what you throw at them, the ball's coming back, all of a sudden now their opponent's overheads will become a little bit more measured because they don't want to take more risks than they have to either.
Love 15.
Yeah, really good point. I know that's a frustrating miss, but a really, really good point by both teams there.
Ellie Halbauer with the second chance opportunity off the screen. That happens to me more than I'd care to admit, and I'm always grateful for the cage in those circumstances.
That is a very common weather dynamic, right? You see it coming in hot or not hot. Really good reaction there from Halbauer. Oh, good try. Really good try.
Oh, that would have been a phenomenal ATP transition play.
Right,
We're
the
gonna
80%.
see
And
just
then
how
the
close it
bomb.
was.
Yeah, the
Right.
bomb.
15-40.
All right, back
so far.
back to a double match point. This is, obviously the APTA does a lot. Joho Media does a lot to sort of, make this content available to people. But this is going to be a really
40.
good match for Baez and Saric, hopefully, to go back, watch, think about it. There's a lot of just experiential things that are coming out of this match.
Set match. Halbauer Jackson.
Yeah, really, really good match. John, I don't know if you have any final comments. Like, what's your main takeaway as we move through the day?
Main takeaway for me is moving forward, I really like to see how often Jill Jackson was pouncing on that forehand. I think that's going to put her and Ellie Halbauer in a phenomenal position, not just to make a run through the rest of this tournament, but as we build up to nationals. Really love what I'm seeing there. And to your point there, Steve, I think this team of Baez and Saric, they're going to be around for a long time. And as I mentioned earlier, it's why I think a lot of players circle the Steel City Classic as a calendar tournament that they try to play every year. Is due to the location, you get to have a nice mix of Midwest teams and East Coast teams, which you want to have these matches before nationals so that you know what you're getting yourselves into. So another really good quarterfinal match here in Fox Chapel at the Steel City Classic. And stay tuned because we have plenty of more matches today with the men's semi right around 4:30 and the women's semis afterwards. Steve, as always, it's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap.
At Volley, we build tools to unlock your potential. The new Volley PTI feature breaks down your game like never before. Ever wondered, which partner has impacted my PTI the most? What's our win percentage as the favorite or underdog? Do I perform differently in 2 or 3 set matches? Now, it's all at your fingertips. The PTI tool is free to everyone. Download the Volley app today and level up your game. We'll see you on the court.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. and our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Hi, I'm Mike Yahimski. I'm the National Chairman of the Umpires Committee for the APTA. So I started umpiring back, it was maybe 5 years ago. There was a local tournament at my home club at Indian Trail Club, and they needed umpires. And I put my hand up to volunteer for that tournament, and here I am, running the APTA umpires. So becoming an umpire is easy. I'll send you a bunch of materials that you read through, including the rules. There's a special handbook that basically walks you through the entire process to make sure that you're successful up in the chair from day one. There's a 15-question multiple choice certification exam. Super simple for the most part. If you play paddle, you'll pass it right away. And then I'll put you in, when you pass, I'll put you in touch with the regional captain, and they'll get you up in the chair at the next tournament. An ideal candidate is obviously you have to love paddle. And then someone who has confidence. If you want to make a call, you got to stick to it. You got to be confident. And someone who doesn't mind being a little cold up there sometimes, or a little wet. But anybody really who wants to give back to the APTA and the game of paddle, becoming an umpire is truly the perfect opportunity. My name again, Mike Yahimski. I'm the National Chairman of the APTA Umpires Committee. If you're interested in becoming an umpire, reach out to me and I'll give you all the information you need.